Hello, I'm Graham West from OrgArt. Today I'm going to show you some brush techniques and some line work and just some simple tips just to get straight lines and to get some paint adhering to your canvas or piece of paper in the best possible way. So we're using 4 brushes today, a small brush which is number 2, round brush also number 6, and then a larger flat brush 5 and 7. The larger brushes we'll use for bigger surface areas and the small ones will go into smaller corners, good for straight lines and edges and things like that. So first up, we'll show you what the little brush does. So I'll just activate it, a little bit of water. I use my piece of paper towel just to dry it off a bit. It already had a little bit of paint left on there. So I just take it, I look at the edge of the paintbrush and just look for where it's going to lay down the paint nicely and just put out that line quite simply. That's most probably good for about 2 or 3 centimetres before I need to reload again. So you'll see the smallest brush can do delicate lines. I'm only pushing down the brush very lightly. If I go down fat, it will smudge out and become quite a bit bigger. My next brush, number 6, round, it'll give us a slightly thicker line, so you'll get your paint on a bit quicker and you'll be able to use it just the same, laying it down, just watching where the tip is bending. So I look at my brush, I look for the thin part, I'll put the thin part down against the edge of the line and then be able to bring my line out quite smoothly. Just a steady hand will bring that out and run out after the 2 or 3 centimetres. I'll go back, start over where the line was already, get my line out. Really good for getting in and around edge of circles. So I'm going to colour in this, could be tip of a finger or something. So we'll just go on the inside of the line. I turn my brush around and I'll just poke it up in and around on the inside of the curve, and then I bring it back around the other side. I'll start from out and I'll just be always watching as to where my brush is laying down. Put a bit more paint on and then you can just fill in that quite nicely, just with this simple little brush strokes. I'm just looking now at my small little circle that's there. I'll go back to my small brush. What we'll do is we'll work from the inside, start in, seeing how the brush works and the paint comes off it, and then we'll go on the inside of the circle and just work around the edge. Looking at how the brush is working, I'll reload a little bit more paint and just go to the other side, just pushing it from the inside to the outside of the circle, and it should have finished off, something like you could do for an eye or the like. We've got our larger brushes there. I'll get those into the water. We don't want to leave paint on brushes for too long. They dry out after about 5 or 10 minutes and then they won't be of any use to you, so it's always good to keep them back in the water. Treat them nice and they'll treat you nicely. My larger brush now, fairly thick with its paint. I've got a little bit of water on it, but yeah, paint should come off quite nicely. If you do smooth strokes, the paint will adhere in a nice even way. Just repeat that, going over the area where you just painted a slight bit, just to make sure you got full coverage. Paint goes on quite nicely with nice smooth strokes. You can speed it up. A little bit of water on my bigger brush for bigger areas, good for backgrounds, good for doing things like hair. Just put that down just up to the edge of that little line that I had there just as a guide, and you can get that on. Not too much water, otherwise you'll get white appearing through from the canvas or the paper. Now you've got about, as I said, 5 or 10 minutes where you could go back over that and then fix up any areas that didn't have adequate coverage, but you haven't got much longer and the paint will dry. You're then best to let it fully dry before you go back over it. You can manipulate it for a while, but not too long. So there you go, there's just some simple little techniques. Now when I'm painting, I generally work from the left-hand side of the page or the canvas across to the right. That way my arm and my elbow and things like that aren't dragging in the wet paints and we're not getting any smudges. Left-hander obviously, vice versa. So think about where you start. Start left if you're right-handed and then work down and across the canvas as you go. Have fun painting.